Is the first essay. We have calcium. So calcium, now we are being asked like what are the sources, daily requirements, functions, and the disorders due to the deficiency of calcium. Under these headings, we are supposed to discuss. So we know calcium is the most abundant among all minerals in our body because our bones are made up of calcium, muscles are made up of calcium, isn't it? So it has so many functions. So it is forming the major mineral in the body, so which is accounting for about 1 to 1.5 kg of our body weight. Okay, so most of it is found in bones and teeth. So the functions is it is helping in the development of bones and teeth. So actually during the development of bone, we came across this word hydroxyapatite crystals. That means when you see the layout of bone, when lamellae are formed, so one lamella over the other will be laid during the formation of bone. So each lamella will be actually loaded with this mineral, that is the toughest mineral, that is the hydroxyapatite crystals, which are made up of calcium. We have seen muscle contraction also yesterday. Excitation contraction coupling mechanism we have checked. There also we have seen the entry of calcium. For synapse also we have seen the entry of calcium, isn't it? For blood coagulation, fourth clotting factor, we have seen calcium. For membrane integrity and permeability also calcium is very, very important. Okay. It is acting as coenzymes for the activation of many enzymes. Okay, so calmodulin mediated action of calcium. That means calmodulin is another form of calcium, which is this is a chemical substance which contains calcium in it, which has molecular weight of 17,000. So it's a calcium binding regulatory protein. Okay, that means calmodulin is a protein which is made up of calcium, which is activating certain enzymes like adenylate cyclase, calcium dependent protein kinases. So calcium is also acting as intracellular messenger. That means second messenger. That means it is helping in transport of certain substances across the cell membrane. It is also important for the release of certain hormones. We know the regulation also. We have discussed in fact PTH and calcitonin. We will discuss again. So calcium regulates microfilaments and microtubule mediated process. That means it is helping in endocytosis, cell eating, cell exocytosis. That is something like secretion of enzymes, cell motility. All these are also under the like control of calcium. Then contact inhibition. So that means cell to cell contact, adhesion of cells in tissue. That cell to cell communication is also being produced by this calcium. We know calcium is helping in muscle contraction. Cardiac muscle is also a muscle only. So it is also helping in the contraction of cardiac muscle. Now coming to daily requirements, how much adult men and women, they require 800 milligrams per day. Women during pregnancy, lactation and after menopause, the demands are more, that is 1.5 grams per day, because after menopause, usually we will see there will be osteoporosis. Okay, during pregnancy and lactation, there is more metabolic demand. Children, growing children, it is 0.8 to 1.2 grams per day, not milligrams. See, it is grams because growing age calcium is very much important for the bone growth, teeth formation, isn't it? Infants requirement is 300 to 500 milligrams. Best sources milk products. Good sources beans, leafy vegetables, fish, cabbage, egg yolk. Okay, absorption. Always any vitamin or mineral, you blindly remember it is being absorbed in the small intestine, that is duodenum. Okay. And then factors promoting calcium absorption. All these are not required, beta, but basically active form of vitamin D, we know calcitriol, it helps in the active absorption of calcium from the intestinal mucosal cell. Parathyroid hormone also increases the absorption of calcium. Okay, acidity is favorable for calcium absorption. Lactose is promoting calcium absorption. Some amino acids like lysine, arginine also are promoting. Okay, so what are the factors which will prevent the absorption of calcium? So certain vegetables will contain salts like phytates and oxalates. They form insoluble salts with calcium. So that is not letting the absorption of calcium. High content of dietary phosphate, that also prevents calcium absorption. Free fatty acids also, they will react with
हेलो,
calcium.
हाँ गुड आफ्टरनून। हाँ वो उनको भिजा दो ऊपर।
they form calcium soaps. That's why it prevents the absorption of calcium. So alkaline condition is also, see, acidity is promoting calcium absorption and alkaline condition is preventing calcium absorption. High content of dietary fiber is interfering with calcium absorption. So anyhow factors are not asked. If you remember from our previous class of physiology, I guess, what is the normal range of calcium in the blood we are supposed to have? 9
9
to
to 11 milligram per deciliter.
milligrams per deciliter. So we have certain hormones, no? So like what are the hormones which increase the blood calcium levels? PTH,
Parathyroid hormone.
and also calcitriol, active form of vitamin D. No? What are the hormones which reduce blood calcium levels? Calci,
Thyrocalcitonin.
thyrocalcitonin. From where does it come? Parafollicular cells of the thyroid gland will
Thyroid gland.
release calcitonin, which lowers the blood calcium level. So always see, whenever there is low blood calcium level, then there will be resorption of bone. That means bone will get dissolved and you will see the bone, like the calcium from the bone is mobilized to enter into blood circulation. And if already blood calcium levels are high, then you will see the reverse transport. The calcium will be transported to the bones and it gets deposited there. That's how the blood calcium levels are always maintained constant. Okay, beta? So that is. Then disease states, suppose if the blood calcium levels are high, you call that condition as hypercalcemia. Obviously, parathyroid hormone is responsible for increase in the blood calcium levels. So it will lead to hypercalcemia. Okay. Then we generally see in the case of hyperparathyroidism. That means if parathyroid gland is working more, we generally see the hypercalcemia. Symptoms will be lethargy, muscle weakness, loss of appetite, constipation, nausea, increased myocardial contractility, and susceptibility to fractures. Then the quite opposite thing we have is hypocalcemia. If calcium levels are low, you see the muscle contraction will not be proper and the muscle will undergo a fatigue. That condition is called as tetany. This comes again under physiology also with a very good picture. What happens exactly we will see there. Okay, we generally see hypocalcemia in case of hypoparathyroidism. Okay, rickets we see in small children where the epiphyseal cartilages are still intact. Okay, the bone is still growing because calcium is not available. Hydroxyapatite crystals are not properly formed. The bony deformities will be seen in the form of like bow legs, knock knees, pigeon chest. Okay, kyphosis, scoliosis, different types of bony deformities we will see in case of rickets. Okay. So in this case, you will see this enzyme alkaline phosphatase levels also will be increased. Okay, and you will see the like escape of renal rickets is associated with the damage to kidney tissue. Okay, because you will see like if you just recollect the vitamin D activation, first activation is occurring in the skin, then in the liver, and then in the kidney for the formation of 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. Okay, so that is the active form of vitamin D, that is calcitriol. So in case of renal rickets, you will see there is damage to kidney tissue because of which calcitriol also will not be formed. So that means active form of vitamin D is not present in the baby's blood. So that even if you give calcium, the absorption is not proper due to the deficiency of active form of vitamin D. So that condition is called as vitamin D resistant rickets. Okay, that means here we have to give combination of calcitriol and calcium. Okay, better. In old age, I told you there will be osteoporosis. That means the bone gets dissolved, dissoluted, resorption of bone, mobilization of the bone calcium to the blood. So basically, you see this in case of menopause, where hormones are not available like estrogen and progesterone, because of which you will see certain changes like osteoporosis. That's the reason after menopause, it's always essential to take calcium supplements. Okay, so that is osteoporosis. When the bones are becoming like demineralized, obviously they become very much weak and they are prone for fractures. Okay, so estrogen replacement therapy is usually given along with calcium, and that too with vitamin D, because vitamin D is very important for the active absorption of calcium from the intestines. Okay, so So there is one more condition which is called as osteopetrosis, marble bone disease, where you will see the bone density is increasing due to inability to resorb bone. That means what? Bony resorption. That means dissolution of calcium and transport of calcium from the bone to the blood is not occurring. Okay, then the bone becomes more harder and denser. Okay, that is osteopetrosis. Okay. Then, that's it about calcium beta. Okay. So that finishes our first answer. Let's check if we have covered everything. We have seen sources, daily requirements, factors affecting absorption, acidity, alkalinity, that also we have discussed. Functions of calcium we have seen, hormonal regulation we have seen deficiency disorders also. This Sunday, be prepared to write biochemistry exam beta. I can choose any paper randomly or questions from the papers which are covered from biochemistry. Then coming to the next question, we have discussed the sources of ammonia in the body and explain how it is detoxified. Mention the normal range of blood ammonia and list the causes of ammonia intoxication. So in this case, what is this question asking us beta? Sources of ammonia is nothing but amino acids beta. Okay, you have to talk about transamination, you have to talk about deamination. Once transamination is occurring, that means that transfer of amino group will occur. Once the amino group is transferred to a like convenient amino acid, that amino group is removed from the amino acid by the process of deamination. Once the deamination is over, that ammonia will be channelized into urea cycle. Okay, so that is actually the meaning of this question. Source of ammonia, that means you have to talk about transamination, then deamination. How it is toxified in the sense you have to talk about urea cycle. Then we have to give the normal range of blood ammonia. And we have the list, one table is there, I will discuss this. Now, let us go to protein metabolism. Check protein metabolism in your respective textbooks, please. Go to urea cycle. Amino acids 330 page beta, 330. At least weekly once exam you please write beta. Please don't disappoint me, Ritika. Imad, I hope both of you will write. 330 page. Yes, beta. See. Now you have to talk in detail about. Now I am on the page. See here. Metabolism of amino acid. Please open this page or look at the screen. That is also enough. 332 page we have. So on the 332 page, we should talk about transamination. Okay, that is the transfer of amino group from an amino acid to keto acid. Okay, like suppose the amino acid is there. So this amino group of amino acid is being transferred to keto acid. That means keto acid will become amino acid. The initial amino acid which has transferred the amino group will now become keto acid. Okay, for transamination reaction, we require the enzyme transaminase and the coenzyme, that is active form of vitamin B complex, pyridoxal phosphate, PLP. Under the functions of pyridoxine also you can give this reaction. Okay, now that is the basic concept of transamination. Transfer of amino group from the amino acid to the keto acid. Now we have an example also for transamination. Okay, see here. Now the amino acid you have here is alanine. It's transferring its amino group to pyruvate. That means pyruvate is the keto acid. So alanine is the donor of amino group. Pyruvate is the recipient. Once the pyruvate is receiving this amino group, now it is converted to glutamate. Okay, and the other product we have is alpha ketoglutarate. So for this reaction to occur, again we need certain coenzymes. No, what is that? Pyridoxal phosphate. See, you have not directly. First of all, you will see alanine is transferring its amino group to pyridoxamine phosphate. Okay, from there it will be transferred to glutamate. Okay, so like that it is being channelized. Okay. So that means that is nothing but pyridoxal phosphate is being utilized for the transfer of amino group from one amino acid to the keto acid. So the same explanation will be given in this paragraph. You just look at these two cycles and you should practice these two without structures. Just write the names and enzymes and coenzymes. And you need not discuss about this shift base and all, not required. So that means only you can mark in your books from transamination, you give the definition, then salient features. Till 10th point you write better. You need not talk about the mechanism, shift base and all. Then deamination is very important. See, in this picture, in this transamination process, what is the convenient amino acid to which the amino group has been transferred? That is glutamate. Okay. Now glutamate will be the first substrate from where amino acid has to be removed. Okay, the mechanism of removal of this amino group from the amino acid, you are finally removing the amino group. That mechanism is deamination. Because this ammonia is NH3 is the first thing to enter into urea cycle. See, this ammonium ion will be channelized to enter into urea cycle. So our body is working to remove ammonia from glutamate. It's quite easy to remove ammonia from glutamate. That's why amino acid is transferring its amino group to some keto group and finally getting converted to L-glutamate. So L-glutamate, with the help of NADP and this glutamate dehydrogenase enzyme, it will be converted to alpha aminoglutarate. Then the water is removed and again this GDH is converting alpha aminoglutarate to alpha ketoglutarate. That means this is keto form and ammonium ion is free now. NH4 is free in the blood. Okay, so immediately it will be transported to the liver for the purpose of detoxification, that is for the formation of urea. Okay, that is nothing but urea cycle. So that question is not direct. You have to just actually analyze it, what has to be written, and then you have to discuss. Okay, so that deamination, removal of this amino group from the amino acid is generally, it's called as deamination. Okay, beta. So oxidative deamination, whenever you talk about NADP, we have seen in biological oxidation, wherever NAD, NADP are involved, you usually use the word oxidative, no? So that's what is oxidative deamination, is actually the explanation of 15.5 figure under this. Okay, apart from that, we also have like non-oxidative deaminations also, where directly few amino acids are there, the ammonia is removed by the utilization of certain enzymes and you will get respective keto acids. For example, dehydratases, okay, they will act upon serine, threonine, homoserine to convert them to respective keto acids and ammonia is liberated. Like that, few more examples are also given. For cysteine, desulfhydrases. For histidine, histidase. So somehow through hook or crook, ammonia is liberated. Once the metabolism of ammonia comes into picture now. Once ammonia is coming out, it's very harmful, very dangerous in fact. So immediately it is combining with carbon dioxide to form carbamoyl phosphate and this cycle occurs, that is urea cycle. Okay, maybe in your textbook, this please open this page and check for the what are the substrates are involved, what is the final product. So from carbamoyl phosphate, we have citrulline, arginosuccinate, fumarate, arginine, ornithine, and finally urea is formed, which is the safe end product. And urea cycle is 100% essay question, but directly it won't come. You have to, like, it comes in this different way better. So you have to check. Suppose citrulline to arginosuccinate, ATP is converted to AMP plus high energy phosphate. Arginosuccinate synthase is the enzyme which is utilized. Okay, and aspartate is added. Like that, you have to frame the sentences for urea cycle. Okay, and yeah, it's here better. Okay, one more page is given for us. So same page, you just see. Basically, the first few steps are taking place in mitochondria and further steps are taking place in cytosol. Okay, with final product, that is urea, is formed. And then we are asked, like, what are the disorders of ammonia metabolism, isn't it? So for that, what you have to do is you have to be thorough with this table. Okay, suppose urea cycle is taking place. So a particular enzyme is defective. For example, carbamyl phosphate synthase 1 is defective. What happens? Carbon dioxide and ammonium molecule cannot be converted to carbamyl phosphate. That means in the blood, carbon dioxide levels and ammonium ion levels will increase. Okay, that's what is called as hyperammonemia type 1. Hyperammonemia type 1. Carbamyl phosphate synthase 1 defect. Okay, like that you have correspondingly the particular enzyme which is defective and what is the name of the disease. Okay, so usually in all these disorders you will see, because of high levels of these like byproducts of the urea cycle, you will see patient may go into coma also, because the end products of amino acid metabolisms, they are very much dangerous. Okay, they may damage the neurons, and in a long run person may go into coma also. Okay, so that is our second is. And the levels of ammonia in the blood, actually it is given in the cover page beta, even I don't remember the values. The last page of your book will have all values. It will be somewhere here also, but you please check, or you just check the last page and write the values. Okay beta. Okay, fine. Then we'll go to next question. Mutations. So open the page. Mutations. What are mutations?
Ma'am, that alterations in genetic code, that like frame shift mutations and all,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, 100%
Okay.
that only. We have studied genetic code, no? That means it will be a framework of some code words. Okay, I'll take you to mutations. You also open the page. Meanwhile. Mutagens. 535 page below. Page number 535.
Yeah.
So, as you were telling, see, sudden change in the genetic makeup is actually called as mutations. Okay, so mutation refers to change in the DNA structure of a gene. So, we have many chemical substances which are inducing mutations, which are called as mutagens. So, under these mutagens, what do we have? We have certain like UV rays, X-rays, gamma rays, certain chemical substances, certain drugs. Okay, all those substances are actually called as mutagens. Now, types of mutations, point mutation, that means replacement of one base pair by another. That means instead of AT, we may get GC, or instead of GC, we may get some other. So that base pairing is being changed. That's what is called as point mutation. So here in this case, if purine is replaced by purine and pyrimidine is also replaced by pyrimidine, you call it as transition. If purine is replaced by pyrimidine and vice versa, you call it as transversion. Frame shift in the sense, suppose if you have this genetic code, CGA, AG, CGC, long chain, one big frame is cut and then it is attached to somewhere either in the beginning or at the end. So such big mutations, these occur when one or more base pairs are inserted or deleted from the DNA respectively, causing insertion or deletion. Okay, so now see consequences of point mutation. That means point mutation is one base pair, isn't it? So so here, what are the consequences? Change in the single base sequence. So 24.15. So suppose if this is codon for serine, UGC, silent mutation. Do you remember there was, what was that thing, Wooble's hypothesis, Wooble hypothesis. The last one is the code word which is being overlooked. We have around 5 to 6 code words which are coding for the same amino acid. So suppose suddenly the point mutation is replacing U with A, it doesn't matter much because UCU is also coding for serine and UCA is also coding for serine. So such mutations are called as silent mutations. Okay. So apart from that, we have missense mutation. That means if instead of U, if A is replaced, okay, or instead of C, A is replaced, then you will see some other amino acid is coming in the protein framework. So that is dangerous. Okay, that is actually, if another amino acid is coming, you call it as missense mutation. And suppose if UAA is coming, suddenly the chain of the protein will stop, isn't it? Termination codon it is. Okay, that type of mutation is nonsense mutation. So just try to elaborate this answer. Okay, beta. Frame shift is the big shift. So like that. So mutations are permanent alterations in DNA structure which have been implicated in etiopathogenesis of cancer. That means they are also responsible for the cause of cancers. Okay. So that is all about mutations. Then biochemical actions of insulin. What are the actions of insulin, beta? Basically, okay, you keep telling, I'll open the page, I'll check how much you remember. Told many times. Ritika,
It is insulin is secreted from the beta cells of pancreatic islet from pancreas,
very good.
endocrine cells,
Yes, beta. Correct.
and it has what do you say, promotes glucose uptake by cells.
Yes. 671 page. Promotes glucose uptake by cells. Very good. That is the chief important word you should write. Okay, nice. Yes, beta. Anything else you want to tell?
Um, uh, Insulin like growth factors are secreted by liver, which promote in growth.
Very good. Very good. Generally, we study this under growth hormone, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. Okay.
Somatomedins and
Very good. Nice. Very good. So here we are now being asked about the, what is the question framing, beta? What is he asking us? Actions of insulin.
actions of insulin.
Actions of insulin. So actions are nothing but metabolic effects only, but so you should talk about mechanism of action is different. So many like see under this you should talk about metabolic effects of insulin. So insulin plays a key role in the regulation of carbohydrate, lipid, and protein metabolisms. So under this, whatever is given, we have to discuss in detail. 36.1 table simplifies this better. Okay, effects of insulin, summary. So for example, carbohydrate metabolism, it increases glycolysis. That means it promotes the breakdown of glucose by acting on these enzymes, increases glucokinase, phosphofructokinase, pyruvate kinase. It also promotes, like it decreases gluconeogenesis. That means what is gluconeogenesis?
Formation of glucose. More
From
glucose is produced
from
from okay, from
non-carbohydrate.
non okay, from carbohydrate
Non-carbohydrate
substrates.
sources like from proteins, from lipids, isn't it? So that mechanism is being decreased by the insulin by acting on these enzymes. Okay. So like that, you just elaborate this table better, and that has been discussed in the form of words. Practice this table and put it in your own words. Okay. So that is for
Yes,
the
ma'am.
effects of insulin. So that is nothing but biochemical actions of insulin. Gastric function test. What do you write under gastric? This also we have discussed. Let me check how much you remember. Gastric function test.
Gastric function test. Ma'am, we use there are, I think, direct and indirect methods.
Okay.
And direct methods directly okay, an indirect fixed method is used, I think.
Which method, better? I didn't get you.
Fix method.
Can you elaborate? 463 page.
Fixed method, concentration of substrate divided by arteriovenous concentration is considered.
Oh, okay. Is it applicable here? Okay, let me check.
Or maybe that is
Basically,
something. I think that is something
that
else.
that is for arteriovenous difference, no? Generally,
Okay.
no? Okay. Now this is Ryan's tube aspiration beta, histamine injection, pentagastrin injection. Do you remember?
Oh, okay.
When we were doing GIT physiology, I told you, isn't it?
Yes.
Uh, That is basically in the gastric function test, what we should do is we have to insert Ryan's tube, aspirate gastric juice, check for the normal composition of gastric juice. Now compare the patient sample whether it is having the normal composition or if HCl is raised or if any of the enzymes are raised or if you are finding any increased mucus or if you are finding any blood tinge. Okay, so usually in case of gastritis, gastric ulcers and in case of gastric cancers, when you go with gastric analysis, you may find blood in the aspirated Rayleigh tube specimen of gastric juice. Okay, so we have, that is the basic thing we have to do, but we have to keep the person overnight fasting, ask him to come early in the morning and then aspirate the like contents of the stomach and just do the gastric analysis. Okay,
Okay.
so for which you see, in order to see, that's what is Ryle's tube is written here. Okay, you have to give overnight fasting and then ask him to come in the morning. Alcohol test meal. That means 100 ml of alcohol also can be administered before test because it will stimulate the secretion of gastric juices. We can give certain drugs also like pentagastrin. Okay, this is also stimulating the more amount of gastric juice we can be like even histamine injection also can be given. Histamine is not, yeah, it's given here. Histamine test meal. Okay, certain drugs which can be used to promote the secretion of gastric juice. If that person's right now, if his GIT mechanism is little sluggish, we can stimulate it by making use of certain drugs. It's quite easy. Just read once, you will understand. Okay. Insulin test meal, also called as Hollander's test. So after, basically, do you remember vagus nerve is very important for the stimulation of HCl. So suppose if vagus nerve is cut, generally we do that in case of gastric ulcers. If excessive HCl is being secreted, vagotomy is done. No? After vagotomy, if we want to check if HCl is being released normally or still it is continuing, we generally go with this test. Okay, that is insulin test meal. So insulin is administered intravenously, which causes hypoglycemia, usually within 30 minutes in normal persons. So then in vagotomy operation is successful, insulin administration does not cause any increase in acid output. That's what we have to check with. So apart from Ryan's tube, we can also go with something like tubeless gastric analysis, okay, which is a traditional method. So tube is invariably passed into stomach to collect the gastric juice. This causes inconvenience to subject. This is